Would you believe that this comes from this? Chocolate is made from cacao seeds, also called cacao beans. Cacao beans grow inside the fruit of the cacao tree. Once the beans are removed from the fruit, they are processed and turned into chocolate. 2,000 years ago, the Mayan people of Central America discovered that cacao beans could be roasted, ground, and then mixed with hot water and spices to make a delicious drink. Cacao beans were also used as a type of currency or money. Spanish explorers to the New World brought chocolate back to Europe, where people began to add sugar to their chocolate drinks. It wasn't until the mid-1700s that people began making chocolate candy. Today, people enjoy chocolate in many different forms, as a chocolate bar, in cookies and cakes, and as hot chocolate. Cacao trees grow in orchards, similar to other fruit and nut trees, except cacao only grows in tropical climates. The tropics are a region of the world located 20 degrees north and south of the equator. The equator is an invisible line that goes around the world at the center of the globe. Tropical climates are warm and damp, which makes them a perfect area for growing cacao. Many countries located in this tropical zone produce cacao beans, such as Madagascar, Ghana, Venezuela, and the state of Hawaii. Each cacao pod begins as a small flower on the tree. As the flower matures, the baby pod begins to develop and eventually grows into a mature fruit. Cacao pods have a melon-like shape, with ridges running the length of the fruit. The pods hang from short stems attached to the tree. Apple and orange trees grow fruit on their branches. Cacao trees grow fruit on their branches, but also on their trunks. Look at these trees, and you can see the cacao pods growing almost everywhere on the tree. There are different varieties of cacao that vary in color, from dark red to yellow, green, and orange. Cacao pods ripen at different times of the year, so the farmer continually checks his crop to see which fruit is ready to harvest. The farmer begins the cacao harvest by cutting the ripe pod from the tree. Here, the farmer uses a large knife to open the fruit. Inside the cacao pod, the seeds are surrounded by the fruit's white flesh. To remove the cacao seeds, or beans, the farmer reaches his hand inside the pod and pulls them from the fruit's stem. There are usually 20 to 40 seeds inside each fruit. The seeds look white because they are covered with the flesh from the fruit, but when a cacao bean is cut open, you can see it is a purple color. One cacao pod grows enough beans to make around 7 candy bars. During the harvest, the cacao beans don't smell like chocolate. They do have a sweet taste, though, so animals, like geckos, like to hang around during the cacao harvest. After the seeds are removed from the pods, they are placed in a box and covered with cloth. The heat inside the box causes the white pulpy covering to disappear and makes the beans turn brown. During this time, the flavor of the bean develops fully. This process is called fermentation. After fermentation, the beans are left to dry in the sun on large screens. Drying prevents the beans from molding during transport to the chocolate factory. The dried beans are put into large sacks and then sold to different chocolate makers around the world. the chocolate factory, the cacao beans arrive in large burlap sacks. These sacks are labeled with the country where the cacao was grown. The bags are cut open, and the beans are passed through a machine that shakes away dust, twigs, and stones that may have traveled with the beans. Next, the clean beans are roasted in a machine that heats them to a high temperature for around 45 minutes. Roasting releases the flavor from the beans. It also releases the smell. Chocolate beans do not smell anything like chocolate until they have been roasted. Some chocolates are made from one particular kind of cacao bean, while other chocolates are made by blending beans from different farms around the world. Here, beans from Ghana are being mixed with beans from Venezuela. The beans are taken from the roaster and poured into another machine called a winnower. First, the winnower removes the outside shell from the rest of the bean. Then, it breaks the beans into small pieces called nibs. These tiny nibs are what will be turned into chocolate. Next, the cacao nibs are poured into a machine where they are crushed beneath two large stone rollers. The rollers continue to press and mix the nibs until they are transformed into a shiny liquid called chocolate liqueur. Chocolate liqueur is the basis for all kinds of chocolate treats. Before the chocolate liqueur is made into chocolate, milk, sugar, and vanilla are added to the mix. Once the extra ingredients have been added, the chocolate is put into a large drum, which is lined with blades that spin around slowly. The temperature in the drum is very hot, so the chocolate remains liquid. There are different kinds of chocolate: dark chocolate, semi-sweet, milk chocolate, and white chocolate. Depending on the kind of chocolate the makers want to produce, different amounts of milk and sugar are added to the chocolate liqueur before it is mixed. Finally, the chocolate is ready to be poured into molds. In order to make chocolate bars, the chocolate is pumped through pipes in carefully measured amounts. The liquid chocolate fills plastic molds of a particular shape and size. The chocolate is left in the molds to cool until it becomes solid. Then the molds are turned over, releasing the finished chocolate bars. The bars travel down a conveyor belt where they are inspected and wrapped. In big factories, chocolate bars are wrapped by machine, but some smaller factories still wrap bars by hand. Chocolate comes in other shapes besides bars. Chocolate makers also use small square molds to shape their chocolate. Chocolate chips, used to make cookies, are made by squeezing the chocolate out of a machine into small drops. There is even powdered chocolate, called cocoa powder, which is used to make hot chocolate. People use chocolate to make many other delicious treats, such as ice cream sundaes and chocolate-covered strawberries. Here, a chef is preparing chocolate strawberries to be served as a dessert. Fresh strawberries are dipped in heated chocolate. Then white chocolate is dripped on top of the berries. Once the chocolate is cooled, they are ready to be served. From the bean to the bar, chocolate makes an interesting journey to the market. Chocolate begins as beans growing inside a pod. The beans are removed and travel to a factory to be processed. There, the beans are transformed into the delicious treat we call chocolate.